As the devastating genocide goes on in Gaza and brutal crackdown and killing and murdering and also imprisoning of people in the West Bank, people ask themselves, what is Israel really trying to do? It sometimes might be very confusing what they're trying to do. Are they just reacting to events? I have here a short video for you by John Mearsheimer. John Mearsheimer is an American political scientist and international relations scholar. He's R. Wendell Harrison Distinguished Service Professor at the University of Chicago. He's very well known in the subject. Let's see what he has to say about why Israel is doing all this and how he can make it clear for us.
What do you think Israel wants? If not a two-state solution?
Oh, it's very clear to me what Israel wants, and we're talking here about the government. They want to ethnically cleanse Gaza, and they want to ethnically cleanse the West Bank. The problem that the Israelis face, Steve, is that inside Greater Israel, and Greater Israel includes Gaza, the West Bank, and Green Line Israel, there are approximately 7.3 million Palestinians, and there are approximately 7.3 million Jews. So you have rough equality in the number of Jews and Palestinians inside Greater Israel.
Okay, so he says it's a very clear plan what they're trying to do. He says it's very clear for him. They've taken over Palestine since 1948, and their numbers are roughly equal. And they consider this equality in numbers a very huge obstacle in what they are trying to do. And what they are trying to do, according to him, is ethnic cleansing. And he will lay out the facts in here.
And that means you can't have a democratic state. And if you don't want a two-state solution, then what are you going to do? Well, up to now, the answer is quite clear. Israel has turned into an apartheid state. It is an apartheid state. And the Israelis understand that over the long term, this is probably not viable.
Okay, so now he's saying because their numbers are somehow the same, unless they have a two-state solution, which Israel does not want, this is going to prevent democracy, because in a democratic system where everybody has equal votes, Israel is not going to have its racial and religious supremacy in the country. That means they cannot make Israel an exclusive state as they have done over the years. So democracy is not an option for them. And this actually is very ironic because many Western media outlets actually choose to call Israel a democratic state. According to John Mearsheimer, a democratic state is a disadvantage for the Israelis who want an exclusive state. And that's going to stop them from wanting democracy. So what's the next best option according to the Israelis? And it's an apartheid state. An apartheid state, it's not going to be maintainable in the long run. Why? He says, look what happened to South Africa. You cannot maintain an apartheid system for a long time. People will just learn about it. Then activism grows and grows and grows. And as we are seeing now, it's going to become unbearable for the government to continue. That's how the South African apartheid came to a halt at last. Let's see what he says on this issue.
You all know what happened to South Africa. Can Israel exist over the long term as an apartheid state? And you want to remember that groups like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, B'Tselem, and so forth and so on have labeled Israel as an apartheid state. So they want to get out of that situation.
You see, it's not maintainable anymore. Fortunately, in the last 2 years, after a very long time, international human rights organizations are clearly calling out the apartheid in the system. So in the past, it was not like that, even though it was like in smaller circles, that was the case. But it's the first time where major human rights organizations, including the ones that are operating in Israel, like B'Tselem, they're just calling it clearly an apartheid system. So it cannot go on forever. This is not maintainable. So the next option, according to them, is going to be ethnic cleansing, unfortunately.
And the best way to do that, from their point of view, is to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, much like they ethnically cleansed large parts of Green Line Israel in 1948, and much the way they cleansed large parts of the West Bank in 1967.
So they have done it before. In 1948, the Nakba, where they ethnically cleansed more than 750,000 Palestinians. At the time, this was a huge number. And also in 1967, they cleansed the West Bank, and they still keep on doing that. Even during the war in the last 2 months, the settlements are moving and they're actually being armed by the government, and they're continuing with their annexation of more land and ethnic cleansing. So that's clearly what Israel has in mind. That's what they want to do. They just want to make sure that Gaza is unlivable. That's why they have been saying, let them go to Egypt. Basically, they want to drive them out. This is ethnic cleansing. This is a pure genocide, and that's what they're trying to do.
The problem is that they have not been able to do that. And the United States, much to its credit, has at least said that it will not countenance Israel ethnically cleansing Gaza. But we'll see what happens there. The Israelis are punishing the civilian population in Gaza, in large part, in my opinion, to drive them out. But they have not been successful.
I don't think America has any problem giving green light. It's not like political leaders in America care about human life. That's not the case, because we've seen they don't care. Basically, they don't care. But I think it's because of the global South countries that are still not willing to give a green light, even though it's the US that's always supporting Israel, but the rest is not on board with it. So they could not openly call for it, but Israel, that's what they're trying to do. They're messaging what the politicians have been saying on media, especially on Israel media. It's just pure ethnic cleansing and genocide, and that's what they're trying to do. Thank you for listening.